guys, welcome to another video. I don't know what is happening with my video. There it goes. I have sped this up by 2.5 times. It's going to be a short little voiceover video for our Watercolor Wednesday. Woo-woo! I'm using my Graham palette, and I have out my Schmincke granulating colors that I have. I have that super granulating galaxy set off to the left right there. And right now I am mixing up a kind of yellow, golden yellow, using my Azo yellow and a touch of gamboge in there, just to warm it up a little bit, because Azo yellow is just a little too cool for my taste, and I wanted it to be a little bit more glowy. And I decided to drop in a little bit of gamboge across the top of that yellow, just to give it a little variegation and brightness. And then over the top of that, I did that line of pink. Regretted it right away. And immediately tried to kind of blend it out a little bit and let it bleed a little bit into that gamboge. I didn't mind that at all. Does keep dripping in that little groove right there. I did not tape down the paper, just the top and the bottom, so that it would be an appropriate size for framing if anyone wants to buy the piece in the future. And I have my ultramarine with a touch of, I believe that's dioxazine purple in it, to kind of darken it a little bit at the top of the sky there, make it blend more. Grab my 2-inch Creative Mark Mimic wash brush to kind of blend it a little bit, and then just a tissue to pick up excess where I didn't want it to be. And then I didn't like how light that was, so I did another little. I'm just picking at this point. I don't like how the sky is turning out. I want it to be more blended, so this brush is almost dry, and I am trying to feather it down into where the top of the mountains are going to be, and then up into the pink a little bit, just so that it looks a little softer. And then I decide to just pull that yellow all the way down to the bottom. And then the pink was too bright for me, so I tried blending it up into the purple a little bit. And yeah, I need to stop picking at this point and just put the brush down. And then I'm using the leftover mud and the super granulating blue. And that mud is black and some of the rose color, I believe. And I'm just using the granulating colors to drop in my mountains. I use the granulating colors for most of the rest of this painting. And I'm trying to get my mountain in. I'm using my 3/4 inch Cat's Tongue Faux Squirrel Zen Art brush. I love this paintbrush for making trees. It's not bad for mountains either. It gives you a little bit more control over shape. And I like how the granulating colors have in the mountains have just spread out, and the paper's still damp, so my trees are kind of looking a little misty off to the right there. It is drying pretty quickly because it is pretty warm the day that I'm painting this. It's pretty warm in the room, so the paper's drying a little quickly. I keep dropping in little bits of water to soften the bottoms of the trees and make them look misty, because I was trying for a misty, foggy forest effect. A little fantastical in the colors. My mountains are green right now. But I do like how the yellow is glowing through and looking reflective. I like that. There's trying to put in a little glow of more mountain over there. But the sun is, I want the sun to be peeking fiercely through that left-hand dip in the mountains right there. So that side of the painting needs to be, and I keep trying to be mindful of the fact that I need it to be, the colors to look almost washed out on that side. Not quite, but almost. And the treetops would just glow. You wouldn't really focus on them. A little bit of tissue, because I feel like I got too heavy-handed there. Those granulating colors are so nice. They do lift really well, too. I'm using my Grumbacher 140-pound watercolor, cold press watercolor paper for this painting. Got it in one of my art boxes in the last couple months. 30 sheet pad. It's not bad. It's not the best, but it's not bad. I am missing my nicer paper at this point, but I figured I have 30 sheets. I should definitely use it, right? And I actually really enjoy how this painting turned out. And this cat's tongue brush, I just can't even get over how great it is to make pine trees. And they get that foresty effect. There's little teensy touches back there, little bitty touches to make it look like the tips of trees peeking out from a foggy cloud back there. A little bit of green. I do go back and forth, and I mix the Graham olive green in with my granulating colors and layer them one over the other while I'm doing the trees. Right now I'm using the granulating, the Schmincke color, the pink one. It's Rose, I believe is the name of the color. It's a really nice brown pink kind of color, more pink than brown. And then I put a little bit of the blue on the darker side of that hill over there. Give us some depth and dimension. Just because it's a little bit of a fantastical piece doesn't mean it doesn't need to have depth and dimension. Mostly just a super relaxing painting session, layering in super light washes of color, misting down those trees to make it look, because fog isn't always white, right? It's got a lot of reflective light. There's shadows within the fog. Sometimes the fog is gray. And when I tend to paint pictures, I tend to get a little overzealous and make my fog too white and bright. And I don't want that for this particular piece. So I'm letting the greens and blues kind of bleed down in. As the fog moves and shifts, it's going to allow for more color to drift in and out from the trees within. I didn't really care for that drop of dark color right there, so I kind of spread it around a little bit and wet the bottom of that paper again, so that when I didn't like how it wasn't spreading out, and kind of see right there how it's immediately it hits the page and it kind of lightens and spreads out and makes that little foggy tree shape. I love that. Decided I want one big tree right here, and I want it to definitely look like a Christmassy pine tree. So I'm using the edge of that brush and tipping it and tilting it to create that effect. Didn't like how bare this spot was, so I decided to drop in a little bit more middle ground kind of trees. A little bit of tips poking out here and there within the fog where it breaks up. Give a little visual interest. And dropping in more of a green color at this point than a blue. Really, really liking how the greens and blues are playing together on the page, and how it looks like a dark, misty forest, either a sunrise or a sunset. And then I wanted to get some of the darker shadows in the more forward trees, more in the foreground there. Closer to us. Imagine, if you will, you're looking over a bluff right now. And you're looking over the tops of very tall trees. If you've never been to the mountains, I highly recommend it. Go for a drive. You don't have to go camping or anything. You can just go for a day drive up into the mountains. get right up there, get nice and high, and get out of the car and go for a walk. It's amazing how quiet it is. And if you hit it at the right point during the day, the sun glows and the fog rolls in, or it's early in the morning because you're camping. I've done this, and the fog has rolled in over the night, and all you can see is fog and tips of mountains. It is very surreal and super cool. I decided to drop in some of that gamboge yellow here and there to glow on those trees. Add a little bit of visual interest and carry that color down a little bit. Sorry. Carry that color down just a little bit more. And I'm mixing up more. I think I snagged a little bit of that. Yeah, I did. I grabbed I think I'm not going to remember off the top of my head what brand it is. My Sennelier Indigo from my palette on the right, and dropped it in the middle there on my granulating palette and added in the black and the purple and just a touch of the blue and mix it all together. And then sap green, put a little sap green in it as well. And I keep just mixing back and forth using those colors and layering them one over the other. The hope is to create a few really dark patches and some more foreground detail right here. Really wanted to put it in individual trees, got impatient and just started brushing across the bottom of the page. And it's a little more green than I was wanting it to be, but I will fix that in a little bit here. I put in another larger foreground tree and decided I wanted it a little bit darker off on that left-hand side as well. It was too light right there for me, and I really want the foreground trees to be darker, because as you look out, things are going to get softer the further away they go. And just blotting, getting that foggy effect. I didn't really care for how delineated the bottom of those trees were. And like I said, this color, it lifts really nicely off the page. The granulating colors, they lift really nicely. On the edge of that little patch of trees right there. Trying to create a little bit of shadow and a little bit of fog all at the same time. Back and forth. There's a lot of back and forth when you're doing a painting like this. It's really fun. I highly recommend trying it. It's very therapeutic. This was another 2-hour painting session. Of no talking, listening to music, and just go. Just don't think, just create. Really, really highly recommend doing that as well. And here I'm using this is a paintbrush that I got in my sketchbox. It's a sketchbox exclusive wedge brush. And this also creates really nice trees and forest effects. And that's what I'm using for those teeny tiny trees way, way in the back there. I want them to be super misty, so I'm using a very thin, watered down color, and I want the illusion of trees back there. Not quite as foggy as it is up front in the foreground area, because the sun's coming through and starting to push that fog out. So you're going to see a little bit more of the forest there. But once again, it's very bright, so it's bleached out a little bit was my thought. But also yellow, got a little bit of yellow glow. And this brush also is good for detailing in the mountain area, which I discovered right now. Using that mud in the middle there that I have mixed with all the granulating colors and indigo and a touch of green, sap green, M-grams. And just playing with the brush and seeing what effects I can get over the top of that other layer. I don't want to obliterate it. I want to create some deep valleys, you know, make it look interesting. Not too detailed, but enough that it actually looks like a serious wall of mountain back there. And just on that one side where the sun's not quite hitting it, it would be a little bit dark still. And scrubbing, do a little bit of dry brush effect on the paper, get that rough effect, that look. This is a really handy little paintbrush. And a little bit more light scrubbing effect to get more texture on those mountains on that bright side too. And just a lot of back and forth and playing with the playing with the textures, seeing. It's hard to know when to stop, right? I could just keep picking and going and work on this for hours and hours and just still not be satisfied. There's a little bit of green there that I put some of the brown in. The brown granulating color has a little bit of green purple in it, so it looks really nice over on that hillside that's more in the foreground, not quite a mountain. Got a little bit of forest on it, but also still got that little bit of glow from the sun rising up or setting down perspective, right? I like to think of this as a sunrise. The sun is just traveling up over those mountains and pushing all the darkness away, pushing that fog away. A little bit more dark on the one side of those trees. And like I said, I could go back and forth on this thing for quite a while. I felt like I was starting to overwork things a little bit. Dissatisfied with this little part here and that little part there, and scrub this out and drop some more in and blot with a paper towel. And I decided to put in a little more of the finer tips of the trees, the small trees, with the smaller brush. A little more detail. Indigo, black, indigo and black. And dropping in the dark. I really wanted these trees to be darker than they were. Scrub it in and then use the tip of the brush to make the edges look pine tree-y. Pine tree-y? Is that a word? It is today. And then going over this one again with the edge of that brush and making more textures. And one of those super dense pine trees that hurts when you touch them. They poke you real hard. Just a couple foreground ones. Grabbing some of that sap green and some of the black and some of the purple and mix it together and layer that in there for a little more visual interest in our foreground. Some kind of medium-sized trees going on over on the right there. And I was thinking maybe I need to make some of those squiggly pine trees. And then I was like, no, don't do that. Don't change it up now. You're halfway through the painting. Almost done. Actually, we're almost done the painting. A couple more like medium-ish sized trees in front of those darker ones that are right there. I really like how this is turning out. This is where I start really liking it. Right about here. I'm like, yeah, all right, this is kind of working now. I'm digging it. I got a little contrast going. My washed out background looks like a washed out background. And then the foreground's looking dark and a little more detailed. All right, I'm digging it. And got a little more brown green in there. Just for interest, so the light hits that, it's gonna bring forth all those forest colors and let them peep through. And I'm really not liking how light the bottom of the painting is right there. And I'm trying to get it darker without making the trees look obliterated and all just one solid mass down there. And I'm not happy with how it's turning out right now. So I get a little bit of neutral tint and some indigo just to darken things up a bit. Neutral tints and a nice one in place of black. It's a good dark color. M. Graham's neutral tint has a little bit of a purplish bias to it too, so that purple blue. And here I just decided to take the indigo and the sap green, a little bit of water, get that purple blue in there, and then just take that cat's tongue brush and swipe up. And it's a forest. There's all kinds of foliage and whatnot going on. So I decided to just do a little bit of swiping up there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We take off the tape to get that crisp edge. I end up cropping the top and bottom off of this painting as well. And it looks really nice all finished. I had a little hard time with that bottom piece of tape. It was stuck on there right good. Well, here we go. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.